So Vigilantes, welcome to my review of the Green Arrow and the Canaries backdoor pilot episode that aired last night, but you could say it was Arrow Season 8 Episode 9, but really this was the pilot episode for the Green Arrow and the Canary series, which hasn't quite yet been ordered for a series, and I guess it all kind of rides on this episode. So many fans were kind of wondering, would this be good? Would it be bad? Would it be somewhere in the middle? And today I'm here to give you my honest opinion. But just before we get into that, guys, I would love it if you would leave a like on this video, as it really does help the channel out. Share this video, and other than that, subscribe for more videos like this. But let's get into my honest review of the Green Arrow and the Canaries backdoor pilot episode. So I have to say right off the bat that I have very mixed feelings. I feel like this pilot episode, you could say, did some things that I enjoyed, but for the most part it wasn't really that great for me. Now I understand, I just want to say this, that there's going to be a lot of people who did enjoy this and who are looking forward to seeing a continuation of this, and that's not to say that I'm not interested in that, by the way. This episode ended with a very interesting cliffhanger that I thought would just be quite cool for the show moving forward. But there were also just things in this episode that kind of left me feeling as though it felt like a very synthetically made episode, meaning that it just didn't feel so natural in a number of ways as the episode unfolded. And maybe that's just a consequence of trying to shove a lot into a pilot. Sometimes you want to get this kind of explosive start by getting the story off the ground while trying to suck people into the show. But as much as I understand that, I felt like it was also to the detriment of this episode at times. So the story for me was just pretty average. I wouldn't call it amazing, yet I wouldn't call it awful either. The episode picks up with a tease for the plot for the episode, with Laurel arriving at the club, with Helena Bertinelli's adoptive daughter, Bianca, getting kidnapped before Laurel could save her. I can't remember if it's called pronounced Bianca or Bianca, whatever. Maybe this episode's importance of saving this girl will be explained in the continuation of this series, but the reason why Laurel wanted to save her from being kidnapped is because in just 1 year's time, in the year 2041, the city is no longer safe despite having practically little to no crime for the past 20 years. All because Bianca gets kidnapped. Other than that, there's practically no other explanation as to why what Mayor Ramirez points out, the safest city in the country, then declines into crime. And that's another thing with this episode. It just felt like there's a whole bunch of unanswered questions, or should I just say the answers we got lacked depth and just felt like it, was made so for the sake of the plot convenience without any tangible believability to it, other than, hey viewer, this is happening because it's happening, and you just kind of have to ride with it. We also had Dinah, for some reason, woke up in the year 2040 with no trace of Dinah Drake or the Black Canary, and she's been living there ever since, with Laurel having found her thanks to Sarah Lance. And, that's it. Sure, you could say that this is going to be explained in the possible continuation of the show, but I just felt like, I could see the transparency in how this just all felt like, well, this is this just because, in which quite a few things were laid out this way in the episode. Now, of course, I do want to say at the same time, just to counterbalance things, like, because I just try to do that in every possible way, that sometimes there aren't issues with that in the show because, well, this was an explanation as to why Star City fell and as to how Dinah came to be in 2040. But when there's a bit too much of it without any depth or explanation, it kind of starts to make the episode feel a little bit disjointed, or that there was no depth to it because there was like a lack of imagination in the writing. So the surface answer was just given, and how I said at the beginning of the review, it adds to the episode's kind of synthetic feel, which is not how I think an episode should feel to the audience. You kind of want it to feel as natural as possible, not convoluted for the sake of trying to scramble something together. So Mia wakes up in the post-crisis world in the year 2040 in the Queen Mansion, with pictures being displayed of her and William as kids after not being separated, and I felt like the episode did a good job at displaying many of the post-crisis changes versus, what the world was like before. And, the premise of Mia in this new world is just as I thought it would be, in that she can't remember anything, and she has this seemingly perfect life, and she's even with John Diggle Jr., which is a big change from his previous Deathstroke gang iteration, which, only adds more interesting spice into the episode later. Now, this quickly gets addressed though with the socialite Mia getting memory dumped by Laurel, who needs her help in saving saving the city from its eventual return to crime in just a year's time by activating this ring that uses the technology in a similar way to how Martian Manhunter restored people's memories during Crisis, and so Mia wakes up with all of her pre-Crisis memories restored. Now I thought as much as this moment was pretty cool with, Mia getting all of her memories with Oliver and everything back, this moment was also a little bit awkward. I mean, who tries to dive straight into a kiss with someone just after they've literally fainted? I mean, some of you may find this nitpicky, but seriously, go back and rewatch this scene that I'm talking about. Mia literally faints after the memory restoration, and JJ decides to immediately go in and whop a massive kind of kiss on her, and they only kind of wrote that in so that Mia could recoil at her new memories of the former Deathstroke gang leader. It just felt unnatural, forced, and there was kind of a couple of moments like this in the episode, and moments like this I just wish they wouldn't do for the sake of pointing something out. Another one being the wine spilling moment in Bianca Bertinelli's home later in the episode, which, of course was deliberate on Mia's behalf, but could you just make it any less convincing that the only reason those characters believed that was a genuine spill is because this show isn't real? Or just when Bianca's ex-boyfriend Trevor on the rooftop towards the end of the episode smacked that pipe so some cool gas effect would come out for no other reason than dramatic effect. I mean, I just don't know. I accept that some will find this nitpicky, but moments like this are particularly irritating for me and only serve to draw me out of the episode. Now, it was also interesting seeing in this new post-crisis world that both Diggle's sons have somewhat swapped place, in that JJ seems to be this kind of upstanding man while Connor Hawke is a bit more rough and gruff, and you get this kind of sense of bad history with Mia, and he's just gone out of rehab as well, but he still might be the one that shines through out of both of the brothers given that ending tease with JJ. All in all though, Mia agrees to help save the city by helping Bianca, find Bianca, after a pep talk or two from the Canaries, particularly Laurel. I enjoyed both Laurel and Dinah, by the way, in this episode with what we got. I felt like they were both decent with what they got with the script. I mean, I don't really have any gripes there, as I really enjoyed both of these characters on Arrow. It was just quite the turn for Laurel as well, compared to what she also used to be like, who was in this episode in full driving force mode, trying to convince even Dinah at the beginning of the episode to help, and then also Mia. Now, this also kind of quickly turned in some action scenes that I thought were very decent, that introduced also the tease of that Deathstroke gang mask. Now, yet again, this is all subjective and you may not feel the same, but I wasn't really the biggest fan of the music choices in this episode. It just kind of felt like a little bit too on the nose versus what you would have typically got accompanying some action scenes in Arrow, for example, being a bunch of suspense building strings. But here we got a couple of songs which just kind of made it feel a little bit eccentric in comparison to Arrow kind of action scenes. But the choreography and action was good, as I said, especially the action sequence towards the end of the episode against all of Trevor's henchmen, even though Dinah probably killed this guy in this moment. As for Mia suiting up as the Green Arrow, I'm kind of impartial to it in a way, and despite how I feel a little bit indifferent to it, Catherine McNamara, sorry for butchering, really does encapsulate the look and the action that she partakes in during the episode. I mean, she totally does. I mean, there's nothing against the actor here, but I just don't feel like the character of Mia, Queen even, has quite earned that yet. I mean, I personally would have rathered the series to start off with her wanting to live up to that name after the memory dump, and even have her earn it over time, even if that still meant her wearing the suit. But instead, this episode just had Laurel and lines saying like, "You are the Green Arrow." So yeah, I just would have preferred it personally that other way. But of course, that is the show's seeming name, so that would be a little bit difficult, with it being Green Arrow and the Canaries. I just also felt like it was a bit on the nose when she got offered that briefcase with the suit, the Green Arrow suit, and it flashed to Oliver saying, "You earned it." I mean, that's because I just don't really know if she has, but that doesn't mean she can't. As for how the episode drew to a close, I felt like the backdoor pilot did a good job for leaving, fans a reason to want to watch more, with the symbols and markings on the hosen, if that's even how you say it, being marked and tattooed on Trevor's wrist. If you guys remember that moment, with him even saying that you can't stop what's coming, she won't let you. And then we even got JJ receiving a memory dump of his pre-Crisis ventures, with of course him being the leader of the Deathstroke gang, and none of the main characters are currently aware of this. So, you know, I think that will make things very interesting moving forward, as this character will be, you know, conflicted with his feelings for Mia, being a good person, but also with all of the feelings he had that made him into that villain during the flash forwards we already saw last season and this season of Arrow. So yeah, I think that's quite a cool premise for the future. On top of that, we also have William getting kidnapped as Mia, you know, got knocked out right by her father's Green Arrow statue, which we should, I guess, see getting unveiled in the finale next week. So all of this sets up a future which I can definitely see there being an audience for, and I bet, you know, loads of people really enjoyed this episode, and with the way this set even more up, there's certainly a market for it. It's just, for me, I'm somewhat neither here nor there with it, and I don't think it was the best that it could have been, but I'm not totally saying it was trash or anything like that. I'm just saying, yeah, it was okay. It wasn't great, it wasn't terrible, but it definitely wasn't where I think it could have been. So there you have it. That's my thoughts on this episode. I hope some of you don't, you know, kill me in the comments down below. I just wanted to say it how I saw it. I thought that this, as I've already said, I'm going to be repeating myself at this point, it wasn't the most terrible thing in the world. It wasn't even bad. But when I say that, I also just don't want to say it's great. It's kind of a similar way to how I view Batwoman. I watch it, I try to enjoy it. It's not like I go into this with a certain, you know, to dislike it or anything like that. I genuinely look at it and I'm like, okay, let's try and enjoy this, see what it's about. Same thing with this, but it just, you know, for the reasons I said, it didn't totally sell the show for me. But I'm willing to see, you know, the continuation of this story. It's just going to be intriguing to know your thoughts as well down in the comments below. I know a lot of people have different opinions and don't nearly see things the way I do. I mean, that's why we have different opinions in the first place. Some people don't even pick up the things that I might find issue with. And if that's the case, more power to you if you enjoyed this and didn't see any issues with the issues that I pointed out. But yeah, either way, let's start a conversation down in the comments below, guys. It's going to be interesting to see where this goes. It definitely has an interesting premise for something moving forward, but will it be enough for the majority of people? Personally, I think that the CW definitely does have an audience that don't you know, have the issues that I have, for example. So I think like there's a lot of people there who would be willing to you know, definitely engage with this show week to week, and there would probably be a lot of them. But will it be enough to keep up the numbers? I don't know. I don't think it would be like similar numbers to the existing shows that we got, like Flash or Supergirl or anything like that. In fact, I think if it did kind of come around into a series, it would probably be below Supergirl, Flash, even Batwoman, but it might be on par with something else. I don't know. That's way too obviously early to predict. It's just interesting. Very interesting, I guess. We're just gonna have to wait to see what the fallout is. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Either way, let me know everything you thought. If you did enjoy it, leave a like on it. It really does show your support for the channel. Really does help. You know, subscribe for more videos like this. But other than that, everyone, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you vigilantes in the next video. Goodbye.